Hello and welcome to episode 11 of our Back in Business podcast. I'm Rob Miller.
And I'm Stephen Weisglass. How are we doing?
We're doing all right. We're doing okay. We're back in lockdown again, working from home.
Yeah, 2.0.
It's not too bad. The kids aren't at home, so it's fine. Makes life a lot easier.
I think that would be very hard. That's why this lockdown feels very much different to the previous one. Because the kids are at school. And if they weren't at school, it would make a massive difference.
It does. So on today's episode, we've got a fantastic guest on. We've got Neville Goldschneider, who's the Chief Executive of Camp Simcha. So without further ado, let's bring Neville in, and Neville will tell us all about the charity. Good.
Hi Stephen. Hi Rob.
Hi Neville, how are you doing?
Fine, thank you very much.
Good. Well, thanks very much for coming on. Well, firstly, Neville, tell us a little bit about yourself and about the charity, because we'd love to hear it.
Okay, so I live in northwest London. My background originally, many years ago, was in youth work, and I came along to take over the running of the charity called Camp Simcha back in 2005. It was a kitchen table charity at that stage, set up by its founders, a couple called Maya and Racheli Plancy, who'd set it up way back in 1995. And the story goes, if you don't mind me retelling it, that Maya had been involved with a family who had a boy who had a brain tumour. I think he was about 9 years old at the time, and Maya was very much a part of this boy's life. He used to visit him in hospital and take him out for trips and do lots and lots of fun things with him. And he heard of this camp called Camp Simcha in America, in the Catskill Mountains. And he enrolled the boy in this camp, and he went with him as his counsellor. And he saw this incredible charity in America that really understood the idea that children experience very serious illness very differently to adults. When we get ill, God forbid, we fret about what we fear is coming up. Children don't do that. They know it hurts now. They know it's upsetting right now, but they don't fear tomorrow. So therefore, you can make tomorrow much more exciting than today. And that is tremendously therapeutic. And we came back to the UK, and he set up this charity, which way back in 1995 was for children who had cancer and their families. And when I came along 10 years later in 2005, I could see that we could do the same thing for children with all kinds of serious illness. And that's exactly what we did. And so from about 8 or 10 families back then, now we're servicing well over 1,000 children and parents, including siblings, throughout the UK. London, Manchester, Glasgow, Gateshead, Brighton, and I don't know how many other places. And it's still based on that notion that we make tomorrow's treat more exciting than today's treatment, right? And we bring strength and hope and joy to these families in lots and lots of fun and dynamic ways.
That's amazing. And so what? Give us an example. What sort of stuff do you do with the kids?
Well, okay, so we have these young people that we call big brother and sister volunteers. They're all very carefully screened and trained and so on and so forth, and they're sort of 19 to 25, sort of university and just beyond that age group. So they're old enough to be mature and adult, but they're young enough to still feel like they're a big brother or a big sister of the child. And when you're a sick kid, you get to meet all kinds of people who are usually doctors and nurses, and they're people doing tests on you and prodding you and poking you and so on. Well, our Camp Simcha big brother or big sister is just there for you, just there for fun. And it's just as important for the child who's not well as their siblings. And it's just absolutely unconditional love and attention. And they might take them out for trips. They might just come and sit and watch TV together or play computer games together or whatever it is that the child wants to do that's really fun for them. We run parties and outings, and again, the big brothers and big sisters bring their children along to the parties and the outings and the activities and so on.
Mm.
Then in kind of normal times, we have a residential holiday for kids. We take the kids out to that camp in the Catskill Mountains. We also run fantastic big family retreats where the families come along together, because many of these conditions are rare. So if you're a family that's got a child with one of these conditions, you're very unlikely to know anyone else in your normal world that's like you. So you come along to these retreats and it's amazing. All of a sudden you're in a world where people get it. They know, they really understand. And, you know, in our retreats, no one needs to talk about the illnesses and that kind of thing. They just talk about fun stuff, really. And they just feel enormous strength from what they get from each other. And then we also provide therapeutic programs. We have a program called Arts at Home, where our therapists will go out to the children and run really great arts programs. It might be drawing, cutting and pasting kind of art, or it might be music or play, all that kind of thing. And again, just as much for children who are siblings as for the children who are not well.
Wow. I mean, it's just incredible that what people will do, and you know, you're giving pleasure to children where their lifespan is absolutely uncertain, and I think it's absolutely amazing. So traditionally, how do you fund all the charitable work?
So I guess the first thing to say is that we don't get any government funding at all. That's obviously not such great news, but on the other hand, it's kind of good news, because I wake up on the 1st of January every year and I know how high the mountain is I've got to climb, but it's within my control to do it. Whereas if you get lots of government funding, it can be cut tomorrow and it's very, very hard to then replace. So at least we're, in some respects, we're the masters of our own destiny. So we have to then come up with a mix of fundraising activities that works to our strengths. And in normal times, that will be a mixture of events that we'll run. We'll run dinners, we'll run supper quizzes, we'll run lots and lots of challenge type events where people get sponsored. We have runners in the London Marathon, in other marathons, the Great North Run, Prudential cycle rides and so on. But we also do appeals, we do postal appeals, and just really anything we can do that makes sense, that reaches out to the kind of marketplace that will want to support the kind of things that we do.
And
that's all non-COVID, of course.
Well, that's what I was just going to come on to that. So obviously, COVID must have impacted the charity immensely, both from a therapeutic point of view and from a financial point of view. And so, what has been the impact, and how were you planning to get around all of that?
Right. So let's talk about the therapeutic side first. We realised very early on that the greatest impact on our families was isolation, because it's hard enough in normal times when you're struggling with a child who's very ill, but all of a sudden now your normal friends and relatives and so on can't be there for you when it goes into lockdown, right? So, and then somehow, not always, but some of them have to get backwards and forwards to hospital. Some of the children who are in hospital can only have one parent with them. And just the whole isolating feeling was just awful. So we worked very, very hard from day one to pivot our services to be largely remote. We made sure that we were in touch with all our families through Zoom, through WhatsApp video groups and so on. We also did something really, really clever. On our website, there's an area that's only for families. You actually have to have a password to go into it for, you can imagine, for obvious reasons. And in the parent zone on our website, there's a shop. And you go into the shop, and if you see our office today, there's none of us lot are there. We're all sitting at home doing our work, but the office looks like an Amazon warehouse, because People have been absolutely amazing, and they have given us so many toys and games and arts and crafts packs and gardening packs and heaven knows what. We've even had people donate iPads and things to us, right? And we did some amazing deals with some suppliers to get some of this stuff really, really cheap as well. And parents can go into our shop and basically order whatever it is that they want. And even in the height of lockdown, we were doing around about 300 packages to families. And in the early days, we had to do it all by special deliveries. And then when volunteers were able to take it, at least drop it outside the door, they could. And it's very, very hard to try and put in words to you how it feels for these families when the doorbell goes and they come to the door and there's one of these packages full of fun stuff, right? For kids and so on. It's really, really, truly amazing. And there's just one particular thing I'd like to tell you about. On our big family retreats that we do, we take over a whole hotel, and there might be 30 or 40 families on these retreats. On one of the nights, it's usually sort of 3 days, 2 nights. On one of the nights, we take the restaurant of the hotel, and the children have an amazing program way down the other end of the hotel, and no children are allowed in the restaurant. And we turn the restaurant into an a la carte restaurant, and we provide the parents with a meal. Right? We give them, we give dad a rose to give to mum. We give, all sorts of lovely gifts and things. Yeah, an hour to an hour and a half of date night. Exactly. We call it dinner for two, right? So how on earth do you do something like that? So what we did was our family liaison officers that talk to our parents every day in, day out, told us who some of the parents were who really desperately needed this. And we went round to various suppliers who were perfectly willing to help to produce these boxes, right? And then we call them dinner for two boxes, and they look absolutely gorgeous. They're all branded, and inside the box is a meal, right? Is a meal for two with everything, the cutlery, the crockery, the wine, the absolutely everything you could possibly need, right? Even a music list and absolutely everything. We think of absolutely everything, and we also provide an entertainment pack for the children on the TV, right? So the children are busy doing whatever it is that they're doing, and mum and dad can have a quiet dinner together. And again, it's something that most of us, thank God, can just take for granted, that we can go with our partners and go and have a meal. Even if we can't go out to a restaurant, we can sit and do it quietly at home. But for a lot of these parents, they just can't. Another program that we've been running very successfully is our night respite. We call it Evie's Night Owls. There was a little girl who sadly died a few years ago. There was a terrible accident at her birth, and she only lived to about 3 years of age. And she was medicated 9 times every 24 hours. And I remember going to see mum in hospital, and she just looked like utterly at the end of her wits. And we started providing them even once a week with a night of respite care with a specially qualified carer to come in. And through the wonders of the special care agencies that we use, through most of even the lockdown, we've been able to produce these Evie's Night Owls, night respites for some of these families. And it's tremendously powerful stuff. Yeah. So everything that we've been concentrating on has been all about that breaking down that isolation and making families still feel the strength and being part of the Camp Simcha family. So that's on the therapeutic side. On the fundraising side, so we were looking down the barrel, like so many charities, back in March, thinking, oh my God, what on earth are we going to do? And we have an annual budget of around 2 million. And we were looking at the loss of around 400,000 of that. So nearly a quarter of our income. And yep, those events were all lost. And the London Marathon, of course, and other challenge events were all lost. And we were really, really worried. And we're still worried. But I have to say that our donors have been magnificent. They really, really have. We've worked 5 times harder than we've ever had to do before to keep in touch with our donors. And, everyone, obviously, some can't. You know, some people have had a very bad time, but everyone who can has really put their hands in their pockets and done whatever they can. And it's not looking as bleak as it was. But the problem facing us as an organisation is we were meant to have a very, very big dinner, something we only do once every 2 years, in a very big hall in March, and that's gone. We're not able to do that, and that was going to be a whole year's funding for us. So we've had to look for other ways of doing that. So we're running something called a match funding campaign, where basically we collect up a pot of money from some of our largest donors, and that acts as a matching pot. And then we recruit loads and loads and loads of people who love the charity and care for the charity and want to try and help. And what they do is, on a particular day, we're doing it on the 7th and 8th of February, they reach out to their friends and contacts and so on with an email or a WhatsApp or whatever, or even a call, just to say, look, we're supporting the charity, please do what you can. And the clever bit is, every pound you donate, it will be matched by the matching pot that we collected at the beginning. And, you know, we're really hoping and praying that that campaign will work.
And what's the target for the campaign?
So we're hoping, our initial target is 1.5 million. And we're hoping that, you know, with the following wind, if things go really well, it would be amazing if we could try and get up to 2 million. And that will give us safety for the year. And then, of course, we'll have to try and find a way of funding 2022. But for the moment, if we can just get through 2021, we'll be very happy.
Yeah, I mean, well, hopefully we'll be back to some level of normality by towards the end of next year. You hope, particularly if vaccines come along and all that sort of stuff, and new testing, ways of testing, and everything else. So hopefully we'll be back to some level of normality, and we can start to put on more events. I mean,
that's right.
We over the last every 2 years we've been putting on an event for Camp Simcha as well, with it when it's the football tournament, the Euro Championship. So that would have been this year, but sadly we've not been able to do that. So hopefully when that's back on, we'll put on another event and
fantastic,
and try and raise some money. So you'll get some fundraisers back in, hopefully, and
yeah, fantastic. Thank you. I mean, the other thing that a lot of organisations like us are very concerned about is the long-term effects of the fact that hospitals had to concentrate on COVID. And it's been very, very difficult for families to get through to consultants and all the tests and so on to get the diagnoses. And we, along with lots of other organisations, are very, very anxious that what's going to happen as we come back to normality is we're going to have a spate of late diagnoses. And, you know, as I'm sure you know, early diagnoses of every condition makes the prognosis better. And, you know, we're really, really anxious and concerned for these families that, you know, we're going to be meeting them and finding them when they've got their diagnoses much later than would have been ideal.
So presumably you chat with other charities, and I mean, it'd be interesting to know what's the general sort of views of I don't want to call it an industry, but the charity sector at the moment. Is it tough for everybody? I mean, are you expecting fundraising to drop further, or is it going to improve, do you think?
Well, I think that our mood has changed significantly. If you'd have asked me that question in April, May, I would have said, yep, we're really worried. 2021 is really going to be a survival year for almost everyone apart from NHS charities.
Yeah.
And having said that, we found for the last few months a tremendous groundswell of goodwill and desire amongst ordinary people to help if they can. And it's given us tremendous heart. And there, you know, we've seen reports in some of the organisations that research in this area that's something that is you're seeing it. You know, and Captain Tom walking around his garden raised 32 million right? Yeah, that's an awful lot of people giving £3, £5 donations, and it shows you, and we've certainly felt that people have responded to our appeals and so on. Obviously, some people can't. There's nothing they can do about it. And of course, you have to understand that when you're doing fundraising in this kind of climate, you have to be sensitive and empathetic that for some people it's not possible, right? But where people are fortunate and their jobs are reasonably safe, you're not driving the car very much, you're not going out very much, you're saving quite a lot of money, and people have been able to give, instead of £5, maybe £20, and that has been the willingness to want to help, I think, and certainly from my colleagues that I speak to, has given us all great heart that hopefully we're going to be able to get through this, and then to face the future with optimism.
I do think that'll be the case with your matching campaign. I think you'll find there's going to be a whole raft of new donors which you would never have known about, because when you go to the annual dinners, there's obviously a minimum donation is required.
Yeah.
And whereas the fund matching, you're giving £5, £10, £15, £20 as a donor, which you don't normally get on a fundraising campaign. There's a replacement to your opinion. I think it'll open the
I mean, Stephen, the thing that's been really, really nice about this campaign is, as you rightly say, when you're doing dinners, it sadly tends to be a little bit exclusive, because you get your expensive hall with an expensive meal, and you've got to have the donors coming along that can give a donation that justifies that. Whereas the beauty of this campaign is absolutely everybody's getting involved, because if they can be a team leader and raise £50, great, fantastic, and they're getting £5 from them and £20 from them, and other people can do a lot more than that. That's also great, right? And so it really it's democratized our fundraising, if you like, and it's given everybody the feeling that whatever they can do really, really matters.
Very much so.
Yeah, so I think you pointed out two really important things. The first is, positive things about COVID, if there is such a thing. But it's created a goodwill, because with all the NHS clapping and all that sort of stuff at the beginning, there was definitely a little bit more goodwill out there, and people wanted to help. In adversity, people tend to pull together. And also the fact that, like you say, people didn't go on holidays and they weren't spending any money going out. So generally, there is a bit more cash out there to be given to charities that would have been used on a holiday or a new car or whatever else. No point buying a new car if you can't leave the house. So it's important. So, but in terms of sort of an appeal today, you're looking for team leaders who can have a page on the match funding campaign and help to raise some money when it happens in February.
And I think I would say two things to people who would like to get involved. First of all, no doubt you'll tell people how they can come forward if they'd like to. Number one, it's really easy. And people really want to help. So please, no need to feel kind of afraid. And it's fun too. It's really, really fun. Friends of mine who have acted as team leaders for one or two other charities say that it's so exciting to see the people that you pop some WhatsApps to responding to it, and you can see, crumbs, my people are, my team's doing really well. So it's a really, really fun way, and we'd love anybody who's watching this to please, come forward, be involved. You can really make a difference, because any £20, £100, £1,000, whatever it is, we can really, really use it and make fantastic use to make such a big difference to these children and their families.
Yeah. So we'll be posting this on various places in social media, and we will put the links to Camp Simcha and also any fundraising on there, and contact details. So anybody who can help, please get in touch, and it'll be good fun. Well, Neville, we've come to the end of this interview, and it's been an absolute pleasure. And your passion alone, I think, is absolutely incredible. It comes across in bucket loads. So I can see why you do so well in the job that you've got, which is, it's just great to see. So I just want to thank you very much for taking the time to come on here, and hopefully we'll speak to you very soon.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks, Stephen. I really enjoyed chatting with you.
Oh, pleasure. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Neville. Bye-bye.
Wow.
Well, it's just the most fantastic charity. It really is. I know we raise money for it as well, and it has helped a friend of mine immensely and their family. And you know, I can't. It's just a great charity, and I'd love it if just by doing this video we can promote it and help raise some money for it.
Yeah, it was only a few years ago which I only really knew what the charity did, and it completely opened my eyes. And you know, the amount of help it gives, surrounding help to the families, to when you've got kids who are unfortunately ill, you know, it gives tremendous support. So yeah, give what you can.
Give what you can, absolutely. Well, thank you very much for watching. It's been a good one, and we will see you next time.
Yeah, and it's a goodbye from him, and it's a goodbye from me. Take care.
Yeah.